So the other part, right, is that if we understand that this is like how force is like kind of developing on this kind of continuum, then there are questions about like how do we actually get to that, right? So we have to remember a few things, right? Is that every use of force case, right, is incident specific. So what I mean by that, right, is that there are a few things we have to keep in mind, right? More often than not, force is going to be used during situations where police are responding to a scene, so they are alert to like maybe some criminal activity is going on, right? So they're responding to a scene, or they witness someone, committing a crime. Now, even in these cases, right? This is not a guarantee that force is being used, right? But we know that crime is more likely to happen in these cases, right? So these are ways where force, is higher in probability, right? So the other part that comes into this, right, is that if we know this is happening, right, we know we can take in then that use of force is usually in response to someone's behavior. So in this particular case, then, right? So if we're saying that someone is responding to someone's behavior, right? The use of force then is not just like again, like administered like willy-nilly, right? It is in response to something. So if we think about a different kind of continuum, we can think of this as like a continuum of subject resistance, right? So if we think about this like on a continuum level, over here, you have people who are not resisting at all. And then we have here who are people who are violently resisting, right? Maybe they're attacking the officer, maybe they're attacking people around them, they're actively shooting a weapon, right? So in between, right, there's going to be people who are slightly resisting, maybe they're not complying with like an order, or they're stiffening their body. Maybe, there's maybe some moderate resistance, right, where they're struggling, they're not necessarily fighting back, right? But they are like not complying, right? They're more aggressive with this, right? More than a slight that kind of resistance, right? And so if we think about, where force is more likely going to be used, it's going to be in these situations, right? So this is one that's again most likely in these cases, right? Because someone's not complying with like an order or command, they're being kind of difficult, and it becomes a problem, right? The other part too is that if we think about, these incident characteristics, right? There's lots of things that, are put into place that lead to use of force. So within this, right, there's going to be aspects related to, what the subject, the civilian, is doing, right? So what is the incident? How are they responding? Their demeanor, how they're acting, right? You also to consider, related to this, right? Like what is, the alleged issue, right? Like is this a response to a violent act that's occurring? So someone's actively robbing someone. Is this, just like a path that someone was stealing some checks or something? What is going on, right? So there's that behavior kind of context, right? There are issues, maybe that might be related to like officer training and experience. There's also things that may be kind of conditioned, right, based off, like, say, the neighborhood that you're in. And so with these, right, I think the general pattern of findings that we see from, this kind of literature, right, is that if we want to know when force is more likely going to be increased, right, it's going to be with aggressive civilians. It's going to be, an increase in like violent civilian behavior. Usually maybe if like someone's like fresh from the academy, right? So if there's less officer experience, or if there's going to be, maybe like in an area with like disorder, or higher crime neighborhood. This tends to be the pattern. This is not definitive, but it tends to be the pattern, right? So all of these are going to help, kind of, condition about what's going on, within like use of force, like incidents, right? So we'll take a pause, then we'll pick up the next video.